You've poured your heart into creating something amazing. It's insightful, it's well-written, it's genuinely helpful. So why does it feel like you just published it into a black hole? Well, the problem probably isn't your content, it's that it's invisible. Today, we're building the blueprint to fix that. We're going to lay out a step-by-step plan to make sure your great content finds the great audience it absolutely deserves. So let's get building.
It's a super frustrating question, isn't it? You hit publish, you wait, and you just hear crickets. It really does feel like you're shouting into the void. The truth is, in the huge, massive ocean of the internet, even the absolute best content can sink without a trace if it's not built to be found. And here's the thing. It's not about luck. It's about the lack of a plan. The solution is a blueprint for what we call SEO, or search engine optimization. Now, this isn't about some shady trick to game the system. It's about providing a really clear map so that search engines can guide the right people directly to your work. This blueprint is what turns your invisible content into an unmissable destination.
All right, so here's our blueprint for today. First, we're going to write a solid foundation. Then, we'll add some visual appeal. Third, we'll build what I call digital bridges with links. And finally, we'll create a really welcoming experience for everyone. Let's start with that foundation.
Okay, first things first, the foundation. This is all about the words themselves and how you organize them on the page. If you get this part right, everything else we build on top of it just becomes that much stronger. So think about it like this. Your content is a book. The H1, that's your book's title. The H2s are your chapter titles, and the H3s are the subheadings inside those chapters. This simple structure does two things brilliantly. First, it helps your actual human readers scan the content easily. And second, it gives search engines a crystal clear map of what your page is all about. Now let's talk keywords, because this is so important. Keywords are crucial, but they have to feel natural. The smart example here just weaves it into a normal sentence. The spammy one, well, it's just repetitive and it sounds awkward, right? Look, search engines are way too smart for that stuff now, and frankly, so are your readers. Always, always write for the human first.
Think about how you read stuff online. You scan, don't you? We all do. Our brains are just wired to look for shortcuts to save energy. That's why a giant wall of text is, well, it's a total turnoff. Simple formatting, like these bullet points or bolding key phrases, they act like little signposts for your eyes. They break up the text, make it less intimidating, and encourage people to actually stick around, which sends a really powerful positive signal to search engines.
All right, so with our written foundation in place, it's time to add that visual appeal. But this isn't just about making things look pretty. It's about optimizing our images and videos in a way that helps, not hurts, our performance. You ever wonder how a search engine sees a picture? It doesn't. It reads the alt tag. This little description, something like healthy salad with avocado, gives it critical context. But here's what's even more important. This is absolutely critical for accessibility, allowing screen readers to describe the image to visually impaired users. So it's a win-win. Okay, so here's a super quick multimedia checklist for you. Compress your images so they load fast. Page speed is a huge deal. Add those descriptive alt tags we just talked about to every single image. And for videos, host them somewhere like YouTube to keep your own site speedy and make sure they have clear, descriptive titles and captions.
Okay, our content is looking good, it's well written, but it can't just be an island. The next step is to connect it to the wider internet by building what I like to call digital bridges, or as you probably know them, links.
Internal linking is kind of like giving your readers a guided tour of your own website. So if you mention a balanced diet in your article, you link to your other article that explains that whole concept. This keeps people on your site longer, and it distributes something called page authority. You're basically sending a signal to search engines that says, hey, look over here. All these pages are connected, and together they make my site an expert on this topic.
Now, linking out to other sites might feel a little weird, like you're sending people away. But trust me, it's one of the best ways to build credibility. When you cite a stat from a big study, linking to that source shows you've done your homework. For search engines, this proves your content is part of a larger, credible conversation online. You're sort of borrowing a bit of that source's credibility, which in turn boosts your own. So this table really breaks it all down, right? Internal links, they help your user get around and they spread authority around your site. External links, they build that user trust and signal to Google that you really know what you're talking about. You absolutely need a healthy mix of both to build a strong, well-connected piece of content.
And that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, And honestly, this might be the most important part of the entire blueprint, making sure your content is a welcoming place for every single visitor, no matter who they are or what device they're on.
I mean, just look at these numbers. It's not even a debate anymore. The vast majority of people browsing the internet are doing it on their phones. So if your page is a jumbled mess or hard to read on a smartphone, you're creating a bad experience for most of your audience right off the bat.
And that's why it's not optional anymore. Your website has to have a responsive design that automatically and beautifully adapts to any screen size. Mobile friendliness isn't just a nice to have, it's a primary factor that search engines use to rank pages, period.
You know, a welcoming experience is really just an accessible one. Using simple language, clear fonts, high contrast colors. That stuff doesn't just help users with disabilities. It just makes things better for every single person who lands on your page. And what's good for users is always, always good for SEO.
So, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. This is the master key that unlocks everything. Stop thinking about doing SEO and start thinking about creating an amazing user experience. If you focus on making your visitor happy, the search engines will notice. Yeah, I absolutely love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. You're not trying to trick some robot algorithm. You're using all these technical tools behind the scenes to make the user's journey smoother, faster, and more helpful. The optimization work is invisible, but the great experience is undeniable.
So there you have it. That's the blueprint. 4 clear steps to take your content from totally invisible to completely unmissable. Now the real work begins. Looking at your own content right now, what's the first brick you're going to lay? Thanks for joining me.